Welcome to this CA Workload Automation iDash Release 12.0.02 video. During the course of this video, we will cover a few topics related to the enhancements made to SLA monitoring in this release. We'll begin with a short overview. For the 12.0.02 release, we have made several enhancements to the SLA monitoring process. We've added an option to raise alerts more proactively if any job in an SLA's critical job list fails. We've added a table to display all jobs that have entered a problematic state during the monitoring window for an SLA run. And we've also made improvements to the flow view for displaying large SLA flows and for better handling of CA7 specific items. Prior to release 12.0.02, iDash forecasting logic has operated with an optimistic approach when a job fails. With this release, we have introduced an option to change this. Instead of optimistically assuming a failed job would be restarted in the immediate future, iDash will instead look for other forecasted runs of the job that might satisfy the requirement the failed job was meant to satisfy. Forecasting for the rest of the SLA flow will be based on the presence or absence of any such forecasted runs. So, why is this called proactive alerting? With the optimistic logic, a failed run would always be forecast to restart right away, and the SLA status would reflect this. As more time went on without the job restarting, the eventual SLA run would be pushed back until it crossed an alert threshold. This could take some time depending on the amount of slack in an SLA deadline. With the non-optimistic approach, if there is no suitable other run of the failed job already forecast to happen, the effect on SLA status is likely to raise an alert immediately. The earlier an alert is raised by iDash, the more time you will have to take corrective action. Let's take a look at a quick example. In this SLA flow, the SLA job, ID job C, can only complete if both of the earlier jobs are able to complete. The first job in the flow, ID job A, has failed. First, let's see how the SLA is forecast with the default optimistic logic. iDash assumes the failed job will be restarted right away, either by hand or by automated process. The SLA is predicted on time because of the optimistic assumption. An alert will not be raised until the forecasted completion time for ID job C passes into the at-risk or predicted miss window. Now let's look at the same situation with optimistic forecasting turned off. iDash does not have another forecasted run of ID job A for today. The SLA is predicted miss because ID job C can't be predicted to finish today. An alert will be raised more quickly, allowing more time to correct the issue. To change the forecasting behavior from the default optimistic approach, open the Admin tool, go to the SLA controls, to the Forecast tab. Uncheck the box labeled Optimistic Forecast. Be sure to click the Save button before leaving the tab. We have added a new table to the SLA Summary view, the Problematic Jobs table. This table will show you the list of jobs that became problematic during the course of tracking that SLA. A job is called problematic if it does not complete successfully or if it deviates from its average runtime by more than 10%. This data is kept for every monitored run of the SLA. Selecting a row from the SLA runs table will cause the problematic jobs table to reload with the list for the selected run. In the example displayed here, we see the problematic job entry for the failed run of ID job A from the previous example. For release 12.0.02, we have introduced several enhancements to the flow view. The first of these, progressive loading of large SLA flows, applies to both CA Workload Automation AE and CA7 Edition SLA flows. In order to improve responsiveness of the flow view when loading large flows, iDash will render only the first few levels of a large flow initially. The user will have the option to load more of the flow view, a few levels at a time, until the display capacity is reached. The other flow view enhancements apply only for CA7 SLA flows. We have made a change to the way that negative dependencies are displayed. Instead of including the dependencies of a negative dependency in the flow view, those dependencies will not be displayed. The negative dependency will be marked with a visual indicator and may be double-clicked to open a pop-up view of its dependencies. This behavior is configurable and is enabled by default. To revert to the previous behavior and include dependencies of negative dependencies in the flow view, please see the product documentation for instructions. Lastly, we have added indicators to CA7 jobs with dataset dependencies. Let's take a quick look at the flow view enhancements we've been talking about. The first flow we have is for an SLA with a large number of jobs in the flow, enough to trigger the progressive loading logic. The flow initially loads showing several levels. In this case, the flow is not very complex, simply very large. I can click the Load More Jobs button to continue to put more jobs from the flow on the screen until I reach the display limit. The more complex a large flow is, the more quickly you will hit the display limit. This second flow demonstrates the flow view functions for negative dependencies. We can see that the selected job is a negative dependency by the colored ring and special icon marking it. Double-clicking this job will open a new pop-up to display its dependencies. We can see that there's another negative dependency in the first list. We can continue to follow the trail until we reach the end. And as you can see at the top of the pop-up view, we've added links so that you can jump back to any of the previous views. The last flow demonstrates the dataset dependency display. The SLA job and several of its predecessors depend on a single dataset. Since there is only one in this group, the dataset name is placed directly on the display. Since this is a common dependency, the dataset is shown connected to multiple jobs. Other jobs depend on different datasets. These displays are shown with a number indicating the count of datasets in the group. We can click on the group to open a pop-up display and see the represented dataset dependencies. In this video, we've introduced the CA Workload Automation iDash Release 12.0.02 SLA Monitoring Enhancements and watched a few of them in action. We encourage you to view the other videos in the CA Workload Automation iDash Release 12.0.02 series. For additional information on the CA Workload Automation iDash Release 12.0.02, please review the product documentation or request support at the URLs provided. Thank you for viewing this video. To learn more about this product, connect with other users, and share your own expertise, visit the Workload Automation community at the URL shown. This concludes training on the CA Workload Automation iDash Release 12.0.02 SLA Monitoring Enhancements. For more information on this release and all things CA Workload Automation iDash, please visit docops.ca.com and support.ca.com.